I have a problem.
Do tell!
I wouldn't have guessed.
Just the one.
We're already aware of that!
I want this mic to sound like this mic. So what do we do?
Hey everybody, today we're going to do something special. I'm going to show you how to model two mics EQ so that they sound a lot more similar using the software that I wrote. And to do that, we're going to have to go into my prototype my perfectly normal sound booth. So let me switch over to a different camera.
So the first thing you're going to want to do is to position both microphones right next to one another, as if you were going to be recording into both of them simultaneously, which, in this case, you are.
But how do we do this? Well, what we have to do is first set up all the microphones that we want to test right next to each other. We need them to be running at the same time so that we can record with them simultaneously. That way we can get a proper sample from them and compare the two. So let's actually hook two of these up and then I'll show you what I mean.
The second thing you're going to do is to place a speaker facing both microphones. And I'm probably going to end up just standing here holding this while it plays. Now, the third thing we're going to do is open up Audacity. And yes, this works with ReaFIR and Moss EQ plugins so far, but the actual process takes place in Audacity. I'm sorry if you need to go download it, but that's how it works. What you're going to do is you're going to set it up so that you can record from both microphones at the same time. Usually that would be you picking stereo and plugging each microphone into a different channel in your interface, 1 and 2. If you do have the ASIO compiled version of Audacity, you can use any channel you like. If you don't, it's channels 1 and 2. So what you're going to do is now play this sine sweep tone that we've included in the software. And you're going to play it through the speaker, and you're going to record it into both microphones.
Now, you just set Audacity recording and pointed at your microphone. The important thing is that we record the exact same thing with both microphones, both properly set up at the exact same time. And then, what you're going to do is you're going to stop it. And if you are actually recording in stereo like Audacity does, you're going to split stereo to mono track.
At this point, you can also get into the booth and do a short range of speaking and acting and performing or singing. Do it at the extremes of your range.
Okay, so as you're recording identically with both microphones, you're going to want to do a range of different voices. Low voices.
Higher voices.
And everything in between.
Anywho, once you've got your samples recorded, you now have an identical sample recorded from each microphone. And what's going to happen is there will be differences between those two because each microphone has its own response pattern. Now, on to how to make one match the other one. First, select one of the tracks and mute the other. Then, you're going to go up to the Analyze Plot Spectrum tool, and you're going to export the plot spectrum as a text file.
We are going to select only the top track. Now, go to Analyze, say Plot Spectrum, and we're going to export that and save it as a text file. All right. And now we do the same thing with the bottom.
Label it something sensible, like microphone that I want the other one to sound like .txt. Then repeat the process with the other one. Label it something like microphone that I want to sound like the other one .txt. Next, open up the modeling software. Whoa, that looks a little daunting, doesn't it? Sorry about that. I made it functional, not pretty. And I had to write my own binary conversion function, so I didn't have a whole lot of time for the GUI experience. Anywho, and now we're going to open up the modeling software and make a model. Now, this is what you're normally going to be seeing, okay? You can choose to make a model for Audacity. You can choose to make a model for Reaper's ReaFIR, or we can do one for Moss EQ, but the process is largely the same. What you're going to do is you're going to tell it you want to create a conversion EQ curve, and it's going to ask first for one of the files and then for the other. It'll ask for the mic that you want to sound like the other one, and you will then be asked for the mic that you want it sounding like, or vice versa. Select your text files that you exported from Audacity, and after that, it should just generate a curve. The first thing that we're going to do is, say, create a profile. Mic 1 will be the mic you were attempting to get to sound like the other mic. So mic 1 will be the modeling mic, and mic 2 is going to be the mic that you're trying to copy the sound of. So we are going to first pick the edge note because that is the modeler mic. And then we are going to pick the Sontronics Orpheus as the destination. So now it's asking us to name our curve, and we are going to say edge to Sontronics Orpheus. Hey, don't judge my typing. Okay. Please close the program and restart to produce another curve. We don't necessarily need to do that because we're done. It'll ask you to name it as a text file if you generated it for Audacity. Now, if you are generating it for ReaPIR, it goes into the ReaFIR plugin, and you need to be sure there is at least one other preset saved in there, or this will not work. Warning, danger, Will Robinson. You need to make sure there's at least one other preset because it uses that to get its numbering scheme set up. So make sure there's at least one other preset. It can be just complete nonsense. Just go in ReaPIR, save you a preset in the ReaFIR plugin, and make sure that that's in there. So let's go and apply the curve. All right, we're going to select the track that we want to sound like the other one. So we'll select the edge notes track, and then we're going to go to Effect, and then we're going to go to Filter Curve. We go to Manage, and we go to Import. Now, as you can see, I've created quite a few curves here. But what we're going to do is pick the one that goes to the Sontronics Orpheus. And we have several of them, but this is the one that we're after. Look at that. Look at that. That actually changes our EQ pattern quite a bit. So if we apply that, after that, what you will wind up with is a curve. Now you'll notice these curves tend to have a little bump at the very bottom at the base end. You can just move that one node and get rid of that. That's kind of an artifact of the way that this thing generates the curve, and it will always be there. Just flatten that out to 0 and you'll be fine. Or leave it in place. It doesn't really hurt anything, especially if you're already running a pretty aggressive high-pass filter. The edge note should now sound a lot more like our Sontronics Orpheus. And ReaPIR's going to work the exact same way. So this time when we open the software, we're going to say ReaFIR, simplified. Again, it's going to tell us to pick mic 1, which is going to be our edge note, mic 2, which is going to be our Sontronics Orpheus. And do you want to save your ReaFIR code as a snippet file? Don't do this unless you're a programmer and want to mess around with it. I would just say no. Would you like to automatically add your curve to ReaPIR? Say yes. And it will be added as new curve DW. You're going to want to rename it. It tells you so here. Now we say OK and keep agreeing with it. And we can close the software. Now if we start a new track in ReaPIR and we go into the effects, the first thing we're going to do is find ReaFIR. And hit OK. Now, we're going to check out our presets. And at the very end, oh ho ho ho, new curve DW. And it's kind of off the charts because, come on. There we go. It's kind of off the charts because it defaults to this 3. Why, I don't know. But we can change that to a window that will allow it to look a little better. Make sure your curve's good. Go to here. Go to rename preset. We're going to say edge note to Orpheus. Yay! And we have saved this preset. And now we can skip around our presets, and this will be the most recent that we have. Edge note to Orpheus. So if you record something with the edge note, this should bring the sound of it more in line to a recording that you would have made with the Sontronics Orpheus.
Now, I still want to stress the fact that there is a lot more to modeling than just mic EQ matching. And that's true, and some of you are going to point that out. But it does take you a long way toward getting one microphone to sound like another. And in a lot of cases, that's really all you need sometimes to substitute one mic for another, if just for a few pickup lines or temporarily, or just to bring a couple of things in line with one another to the point where, like, no one's going to notice that they don't sound the same. So EQ matching is a good way to offset response patterns that don't match very well. And while it's not going to be a perfect model of whatever mic you're using, it's going to get you close. So, like, it's a very handy thing to do. But with stuff that's a little bit more aggressively different than the microphone that you might be using, like this, for example, stuff like this is going to need a little bit more work to get to sound, to get the modeling mic to sound like this. So in the case of something like this, I wouldn't just use the EQ modeling software that you just saw. I start with that, but then on top of it you can add other things. You can add hiss, you can add distortion, you can add overdrive, things like that. And so in order to get this, in order to get this to sound like this, there's a little more work to do.
And that's it. Apply the curve to the microphone that you want to sound like the other one, and it will. As a matter of fact, here's a little test for you.
Okay, this is microphone number 1 in bass registers. This is microphone number 1 in baritone.
This is microphone number 1 in mid-range.
This is microphone number 1 in tenor. And then we can go up into the female presenting registers. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Now, we do microphone number 2.
This is microphone number 2 in bass registers. This is baritone registers.
This is mid-range registers. And we go a little bit higher.
And we go up into tenor registers. And we hit the female registers again. Hello, everybody. That sounded a little different, didn't it? Let's use the EQ software.
So, these are the bass registers after it's been run through the EQ software. And the baritone registers,
and the mid-range registers, and going a little bit higher, up into the tenor registers,
and into the feminine registers. Test, test, 1, 2, 3, test, 1, 2, 3.
So there you have it. We went from sounding like this to sounding like this.